more articles I've seen just in the last few hours have been published by mainstream newspapers calling for a new election. It all started Friday and Saturday with CNN and MSNBC and others having CIA operatives like Robert Baer on saying that, oh, the evidence is clear, Russia stole the election for Trump, and so we've got to have a new election. Such a joke coming from the agency that is trained to lie and who's not supposed to be involved under federal law in domestic operations. But you see, 3 years ago, Congress in the National Defense Authorization Act, bipartisanly, changed the law to let the CIA engage in disinformation domestically. Now, they've been caught doing it many times since it was founded in 1947, and there were congressional hearings on it in the 70s, obviously. But now they are going to the next level. And we've got CNN saying it's a national emergency, that Trump's in, he's got to be removed, he's a Russian agent. That's the latest this morning. I have a clip of that. They mean business. These are the people that have hijacked this country. They're the globalists. They work for the multinationals. And so whatever they're doing, they turn around and throw it in our face. It wasn't angry Americans of every race, color, and creed that were upset about globalism, who were upset about our jobs being shipped overseas. No. That's not why you voted for Trump. You voted for Trump because the Russians mind-controlled you. Russia can barely run its own country. It's got an economy the size of Italy, though it has 3 times their population. They're on the verge of collapsing. George Soros admits he's got operatives inside the country fomenting what they call color revolutions. They have 2 military bases. We have thousands. China is openly taking over our major infrastructure, Hollywood, the newspapers. That's the newspapers that Carlos Slim hasn't bought up, the Mexican kingpin. But we're told it's Russia, the perfect little boogeyman. China's richest man warns Trump of risk to U.S. jobs. Yes, we have the Chinese communist leaders on television telling us about how we should live when they're total hypocrites living in opulence worth hundreds of billions of dollars in some cases, like that individual who is the man buying up the big 6 Hollywood production studios. He's buying a controlling interest in them. Oh, there's no talk of antitrust there, though. Forget antitrust. What about national security? And then we have these traitors of the CIA that clearly killed Kennedy, that have clearly been involved domestically, shipping narcotics into the country. It's amazing. So, as a culture, we have to realize that we have an alien globalist force that is hell-bent on destroying the American system that's now seized control of this country. And they are arrogant enough, they're full of themselves enough that they are openly now pushing the case that electors should not go for Trump on December 19th, only 7 days away, and that Hillary Rodham Clinton should be given via the Electoral College the 45th president's position. Now, everybody knows Trump will fight that, won't he? Well, not if he's dead. And they wouldn't be on the news, and they wouldn't have the CIA out there running around, and they wouldn't have congressmen calling for an overthrow of this election. And Black Lives Matter wouldn't have had its money doubled by Soros the last few months if they weren't planning civil unrest and a national emergency and civil war. So you can look at the tea leaves and try to decide for yourself what you think they're about to pull, but here's the prime analysis. Here's the threat vector. They're moving to overthrow this counter coup we've launched. We've launched this counter coup against the globalists. And they're trying to block us at every front, whether Trump's perfect, whether Trump's a mixed bag. Bottom line, they know he wants prosperity. They know he wants growth, and they don't want growth. They want consolidation, and that's his sin. And he doesn't have a score to sell. Well, He doesn't have a score to settle with America. He's not out to get the country. Now, I talk about civil unrest. I talk about civil war. I talk about civil emergency, national emergency. CNN now has multiple hosts, and so does MSNBC. I've been hearing this all weekend. I was so concerned. I worked most of the weekend and followed a lot of special reports, as many of you know, coming out and saying that Trump is destabilizing the country, creating a, quote, national emergency, quote, the ultimate goal of the Russian disinformation to undermine democracy. That means undermining the criminals that have hijacked the country and the fake media. He says the ultimate goal of Russian disinformation to undermine democracy, to undermine faith in our institutions like the media. Wall told Stetler, we have a president-elect now who has basically matched some of these key talking points in Russian propaganda to undermine our system. That's CNN's Stetler, so-called media analyst. So get this, if you're Brexit, you don't want to be under EU control and massive taxes, you must be a Ruski agent. If you don't want to turn your guns in and don't believe the state owns your kids and want to control our borders and don't like Obamacare, you're a Ruski agent. You're no longer a conspiracy theorist. You're no longer a racist. That didn't work. Now you're a Russian agent. And Trump's a Russian agent. In between his part-time job as Santa Claus and his other part-time job is a Loch Ness Monster or a UFO pilot. I mean, this is that insane. Meanwhile, it's been telegraphed by William Binney and now British ambassadors and others that it was the U.S. intelligence agencies that leaked the information. And I already know that because I was leaked information by the Secret Service. That she was falling down. She was having seizures all the time. And we caught her twice having seizures. Millie Weaver caught her having to go in a tent for 45 minutes. They had emergency crews in there. Then we saw her fall down in front of everybody a few days later in New York. And we saw her black ambulance that the Secret Service told us to look for. She's in bad shape, folks. And you saw it happen. We have our own sources. They didn't come from the Russians. DC leaks didn't come from the Russians. It came from inside the DNC. People that were horrified by Bernie Sanders having the election stolen from them. And now you've failed at overturning the country. You've lost control, at least of a critical beachhead, and they're in total panic mode right now. Look at these headlines. Congressman begs Electoral College voters to block Trump, especially as the recounts all over the country are showing hundreds of thousands of votes for Trump that hadn't been given to him, stolen by the Hillary people in every state. Isn't that funny? Just what Trump said. Millions of votes were taken from him, and if you add up all the states, they've only done a recount in a couple, the numbers add up to more than 2 million. If the average held across the country, we're seeing in Michigan and Wisconsin and other states. Former UK ambassador, I met with DNC leaker and he isn't Russian. Craig Murray calls BS, that's his quote, on CIA claims. Paul Joseph Watson, he quotes the London Guardian article. I actually read to you from the Guardian. Craig Murray, the former UK ambassador to Uzbekistan, who's a close associate of Assange, called the CIA claims BS, adding, they're absolutely making it up. I know who leaked them, Murray said. I've met the person who leaked them, and they are certainly not Russian, and it's an insider. It's a leak, not a hack. The two are different things. Here's another one. Trump dismisses Russia CIA claim, says it's a conspiracy theory. He says it's just another excuse. Now, what's Bolton say, former full-head U.S. ambassador to the UN? Bolton calls Russian hack a false flag. He says it may be a Obama false flag. Former UN ambassador believes intelligence has been politicized in Obama administration. That is the pot calling the kettle black, I got to tell you about Bolton. It's really weird to hear Bolton and Priebus and people saying things I totally agree with when I don't particularly like them. Let's continue. Democratic congressman. Again, electors should consider foreign interference reports before casting votes. See, this is all meant to push the idea to give cover to delegates who are being bribed, intimidated, threatened. You know what mafias do to juries and grand juries. Imagine what the global mafia is doing right now to those electors. To just announce, oh, we have more evidence. Trump's a Russian agent. Oh, Trump had a heart attack today, or Trump's plane blew up. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. We don't know why it blew up. Then they'll bust some patriot person and say they did it or something. I mean, sky's the limit. Reince Priebus asked Chuck Todd, what's your source on NBC News for claiming that Trump won because of the Russians? Meanwhile, when we come back, Senate quietly passes the Countering Disinformation and Propaganda Act that gives hundreds of millions of dollars to, you guessed it, the CIA and the State Department to engage in disinformation. So now they legalize disinformation. Now they're openly setting up an office instead of it being secretly conduited through WikiLeaks. It's going to be done openly against the American people. But here's the big takeaway from all this. I told everybody, I hate to say I told you so, that they weren't going to give up, and they were going to try to take the electors. They were going to have recounts. They're going to try to kill Trump. They're in every major newspaper saying, someone please kill him. And now they're saying he's a Russian agent to be able to trigger the president, they believe, to be able to authorize a hit team to take out the president-elect before he gets in 38 days. That's how hardcore this is. That's the waters we're in. I notice folks aren't laughing at me now, are you? This is deadly serious. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say, see, I told you so, that communist Chinese-style net censorship was coming to the web, because it's already here. It's being announced. The way you keep the internet open and free is you get involved more than ever. Go to Infowars.com/app. A new battleship in the fight. Infowars Live, available right now. We're looking for a crew to man it. You gonna sit down and play games and be a trendy? Or are you gonna be part of history? Don't sit by and let the internet and free speech be stolen from you. Take action.